Hi everybody, Happy New Year's. I have not filmed a video back here in a while, so it is chaotic with the foliage, but I think this is a good vantage point. There's a lot of planes going overhead today, so apologies for any rough audio, and let's just get into it. So this is gonna be, I believe, the third year in a row where I document all the stuff I'm into, and I've turned this into the Hyperfixations 2020 whatever series, and this is Hyperfixations 2024. So essentially, as a way of going through my year, instead of doing a top 10 movie list, top 10 music list, what I've done is every month I tried to journal what I was really obsessed with. And now I'm gonna go through the year and talk about, from January to December, the things I was just really into and hyperfixated on. To me, this is like a really good exercise in journaling and preserving my year, because something I realized is, I can look at old photos and videos to see the sort of stuff I was up to, but also something we don't always totally document unless we're like making a playlist or doing a Spotify Wrapped is see what the heck we were into all year long. And I think that looking at the media and activities I was really into tells me as much of a story of my year as any of the photos and videos I took. Because it reminds me, oh yeah, that was that thing I was super into at that time. I'm gonna be trying to talk extra fast because last year I realized that this becomes a much longer video than I anticipate very, very quickly. So let's just get right into it. Let's get started with January. So, for one thing, I wrote my H3 podcast video essay. So I started the beginning of this year just trying to slam out this video. I think from like January 1st to January 8th when I finished it, I think I worked like 90 hours or 60 hours or something like that, just crunching 10-hour days pretty much every day to get that done. And I'm really excited that it wound up doing well, and it did wind up catching the attention of Ethan and Hila, and they wound up talking about it on the first show of the new year. That was just a really exciting experience for me because, they've been like my favorite comedy show on YouTube for a really long time, and the video I was making was really hard to structure, and I procrastinated finishing it a lot last year. So going into this new year, I was like, let's just get this done. First week of the year, bada bing, bada boom, and in an effort of speaking faster than I did last year on this video, I might be saying things like bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, I'm just really glad that it was well received and it was seen by the people who it was about and that they liked it themselves. The other thing is the first 8 days of January, I watched a Harry Potter movie before bed every single night. I don't know if it was just the Christmas season vibe I was in or what, but I hadn't really rewatched Harry Potter in a really long time. And in the past, usually when I rewatch them, I kind of skip the first two, honestly. And I had a delightful time going from the beginning to the end. It really reminded me just how nice and like magical, no pun intended, the first two are. And just as a whole, I've always really loved that series, and it was just really lovely to revisit. Next up, illustrator Anoko. This is one of my absolute favorite artists out there on Instagram that you can follow. I think that their character designs are fantastic. I really love how they draw perspective, having characters get really close right up to the camera. I love the colors they use so much, just really, really bold colors. And also, the big thing about this artist that helped me a lot this year was their process videos. This artist puts out these beautiful drawings, and they might make a lot of people feel like, oh, I'll never be able to draw that good, or oh, they make that look so simple. Because a lot of character artists that have characters like this with just like big round faces and circular eyes, you might think like, that doesn't look too complex. When you watch their process videos, it's really amazing because you see them start with this like really rough, squiggly line, just rough draft, and then they draw over it again and again. And one by one, when you're watching these process videos, you think they're gonna be done and they're on the final line work for the drawing, and then they go over it again and make it better again. And I think that I've had this problem as an artist a lot in my life where like the very first line stroke or whatever, this can apply to filmmaking, making music, whatever, but just going into making a project, beginning to start to like work with your canvas, whatever it is. I think it's very easy to feel like, okay, it needs to be perfect as it's coming out of my hand immediately, and I need to know what I'm doing immediately. And illustrator Anoko like really reminded me or showed me like, wow, somebody who's like insanely good can actually do like the roughest of rough drafts and just go over it and go over it and go over it and essentially like build like an infrastructure the way you might make a building with like plywood and then adding things and then adding things until you have like a full complete building. And so it's really helped me with my drawing this year by starting with shitty drafts and like going over them, and I think it's really helped me with wanting to do screenwriting more or any other creative thing where I can kind of just build upon an initial idea and not be so afraid to be like so bad in the beginning. Next up I have Grand by Matt and Kim. This album is really special to me. Matt and Kim on the original Grand tour is like my first proper concert I've ever been to, and at the time, like, you know, I've been to a lot of concerts now, so now I'm a little bit more tired, curmudgeon-y, like I'm kind of more willing to stand in the back than have to like fight to the front and be all exhausted and stuff. But like at the time, that shit was like shooting me with a happiness ray. Like it was so exciting going to my first concert, and Matt and Kim puts on some of the most like energetic, amazing shows ever. Like I cannot speak more highly about how fun their shows are, and that first Grand album is probably still my favorite by them, and it's a really specific vibe. There's a lot of music I listened to in high school I don't really listen to anymore, but going into the new year, I think for some reason I wanted to throw on that album a bit, and I really enjoyed it. And finally for January, The Curse, Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie's TV show. Watching The Curse, I remember just thinking like, this is like one of the best things I have ever seen. It is genuinely a mind-blowingly good show. I genuinely think that it's like the best acting I've ever seen Emma Stone do. Like, everybody in the show is so good because we all know that Nathan Fielder creates like uncomfortable, socially awkward moments in his work, but like, this takes the cake. Like I have never, like every single line in the show is just dense with just tension, and like where the show winds up going is like never to be expected because the premise is somewhat loose, and so when you jump in the show you're like, what is this really about? And by the end, like the payoff is so good. If you're able to watch this show without spoilers, it is such a great experience. Going into February is when I finished The Curse. But on top of that, I was watching it with my roommate. We watched several TV shows together. Wound up showing him Beef on Netflix, which was like some of my favorite filmmaking of last year. It was really fun rewatching that. And he wound up showing me Severance. Had never seen it before, I'd put it off for a long time. I'm so glad I finally watched Severance. This was just a really amazing year for me for watching TV, whether it was new or like a year or so old. Really good TV year. Next artist I'm talking about is Taytime. You can follow them on Instagram, but also maybe more importantly is their YouTube channel where they have their shorts. I found Taytime last year because they put out a viral short film called Scene that was really amazing, and I really loved the sort of adventure timey type character design. But you'll see that their bio literally says, I do not have a consistent art style, and of all of their art styles, they're just all really unique and great, and this illustrator, animator is like so good at character design. In February, they put out a fan music video to my favorite 100 Gex song, Hand Crushed by a Mallet. And over the course of this year, they put out so many little shorts on their YouTube channel, all with like really distinct aesthetics, and I'm just so impressed that someone can make these videos at the speed in which they do, because for me, who's like very new to animating and like barely even getting back into like drawing and character designing in many years, for me, like a lot of their videos I think would, like even the short ones, like maybe would consume me the entire year to finish. And so I just feel really inspired to draw and animate a lot more in 2025 so that I can finally kind of get into my dreams of just being much better of a drawing artist and maybe have the potential to make indie animated type films, even if they are like really short 1-minute shorts or anything like that. As a filmmaker, I've always been so inspired by animation. So Taytime, I've been blown away by. Moving on to more TV shows, I wound up watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the new Donald Glover project. Can't recommend it enough. I think that a lot of people who maybe skipped this one have the wrong idea of what it is. This show really focused on the relationship aspect of the two characters. So on one level, it's genuinely one of the best rom-coms I've watched in so long. Maya Erskine and Donald Glover's chemistry together is great. It makes you really hooked into the potential for like romance with them as characters. Their comedic chemistry is so good, which you can see in like all of the interviews they did together. They did a lot of press touring for this show, and for whatever reason, most of it was like with British media. So you can watch like tons and tons of like British radio interviews with them. I was like really hooked watching every single one because they were just so funny and charming in all of them. But finally with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like the spy aspect, they just did some classic spy shit. It isn't like the modern, boring, generic action movie thing of like, we gotta save the world from blowing up. It's more so like they're just going on some classic, I don't really want to say campy, but just like genre-fueled, we're getting sent on a spy mission. And I think it is such a fun show. The pilot is directed by Hiro Murai, who did a lot of Atlanta. So honestly, if you guys like Atlanta, I think you would like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Next up, my best friend Ariel, he showed me Jujutsu Kaisen and Leveling Solo. Both of these shows have extremely impressive animation quality. I still have not really kept up with Leveling Solo, but Jujutsu Kaisen I've been watching with him whenever we get together throughout the year, and I am loving the show. I've been obsessed with My Hero Academia for years, and I've really struggled to get into the other mainstream animes these days. Just a lot of them have not clicked with me as much as I would like, but Jujutsu Kaisen is the first one where I'm like, wow, I love this like just as much. This is awesome. This is such a cool world. Really enjoy that anime and the prequel movie they did to it, and I have like a few episodes left on season 2. Next up, just getting back into Overwatch 2. Overwatch is a game where like I'll get really obsessed with it for a month and then not play it for a year, but this year, this was honestly a big video game year for me. Next up for February, I just have drawing on a tablet for the first time and just getting back into drawing. So for my animated music video for QWERTY, In My Way, I wound up getting to use a drawing tablet, just using a digital pen directly on a canvas to do a lot of the background paintings. And most of that video, so I did pretty much almost all of the background paintings on there, except for a few that my friend Axel did. And for those background paintings, very many of them are drawn with keyboard and mouse. I'm super used to drawing things with keyboard and mouse on Photoshop. I've never really had access to a tablet. And this year, getting to start using a tablet really reinvigorated my excitement for drawing in a lot of ways, because I realized that I can do some rough sketches on paper, take a picture of it, send it into Photoshop, trace over it with Photoshop brushes, and kind of add all these elements that's, you know, a lot more time consuming with hand done stuff. And I really want to get into animation, so getting used to canvas work is really exciting. Also at this point, so in January I released R.I.P. Kimbo by Lil QWERTY. I'm so proud of that music video. It's like one of my favorite edits I've done. And then from this point, it was just a mad dash of finishing the editing with Axel and Muns Made This, getting the next QWERTY In My Way video finished. Next up, one of my favorite movies I think I've ever seen is Perfect Days. If you look up Perfect Days, they will say that it's a 2023 movie, but honestly, like I watched this in February of 2024, and I think a lot of people watched it this year. So I've considered doing like a full video essay about it, so I might save my breath here, but it's an amazing slice of life movie about an older guy in Japan who's like a public custodian, and he just is really content with life. He just really enjoys the poetic moment-to-moments of daily life. And this film is just a beautiful portrait of somebody with kind of a sense of self-fulfillment, even in mundanity. And to me, I think that this movie has been really like a beacon to call to when it comes to feeling anxious or like unsatisfied or whatever, because this movie just really shows someone like making the decision for themselves to enrich their life with their daily commute, the music they listen to, going on a bike ride, enjoying their dinner, putting a good day's work into their job, even if it is cleaning toilets. And it's just a beautiful movie with an amazing soundtrack. I got to see it twice, and right now I'm thinking it's like one of my like top 5 like favorite movies ever. Cannot recommend Perfect Days enough. Going into March, more watching TV with my roommate, wound up showing my friend the show Erased. I talked about this last year. My best friend showed me Erased last year. It's a limited series, about 13 episodes you can watch on Crunchyroll. It was honestly one of the best things I watched all year last year, just freaking amazing. I don't want to say too much about it, but it's essentially a mystery piece. This character finds himself a little bit far back in time, and it's apparent to him that he's supposed to intervene with something, or he has the opportunity to prevent something bad from happening. Usually when this happens to him, it's something light, like, oh hey, 3 minutes ago a kid let go of their balloon. You can go help them not let go of their balloon, and so they're not sad. But in this case, he's like further back than normal, and he's like, whoa, what's going on here? What am I supposed to prevent? And it is emotional, it's joyous, it's a heartbreaker. It's very warm, it's very cold, it's an amazing mystery piece, really good. The animation quality is amazing. And it's a limited 1-season thing. To me, Erased feels like you're kind of just watching like a long movie, essentially, in the best way possible. Next up, I just wrote having a good early morning routine and drinking coffee every day. You know, my thing is like, for a very long time, like I'll get into like a coffee phase for like 2 weeks and then not drink it for a really long time. But this year I like really honed in on having a good morning routine, waking up and having a little bit of just a regimen going, which has really kind of helped me feel a bit more structured in my days. It makes me feel more centered, and it's nice. Next, I wrote the Daniels 2024 South by Southwest speech titled How We Pulled Off Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I gotta say, this talk was really good, and it also got me into several other panel talks from the Daniels. Something they say in this one is, hey, we've done other variations of this speech at some other panels, you should watch these ones. And in their PowerPoint, they literally show like QR codes to watch them or something. And so I took their advice up on that, and I wound up watching their other panel talks. And the Daniels are such an inspiration to me. When they made Swiss Army Man, that was honestly one of the biggest inspirations for making Tall Skeleton, because I was like, look at these guys who are like best friends, making really, really innovative music videos together, who now stumbled their way into being like A24 directors, making weird, wacky movies like Swiss Army Man, which is so emotionally intelligent, but then also so hilarious. And to me, this was just like the best blend ever. So I'm massively inspired by Daniels, and I'm massively a fan of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and just the whole philosophical thing of being such like a beautiful, hilarious, extremely emotionally intelligent, while also just goofball, stupid humor type stuff. I think that blend is really important in art. And these guys are really brilliant filmmakers and speakers, and they're very intentional in what they do. So I can't recommend listening to their panel talks enough, whether it's like the South by Southwest one or any of the other ones they advertised. Next up, Glorb, the AI SpongeBob music phenomenon. So if you guys aren't aware, when it comes to AI, there's a lot of different versions of it. Some of them are fully generative, where people make really ugly AI slop images and try to pass it off as art. And then other ones are something where people have to, you know, write music, do a full vocal performance, and then at the final stage, they use a training model to turn their own voice into someone else's voice. Now, this sort of technology can be used extremely unethically, right? Like phone call scams or something. In this case, when you're borrowing from intellectual property, I think it would be a much bigger problem if you were stealing the voice of like a indie artist without their permission. That would be really bad, I think we can all agree. When it comes to stealing from the massive entities of like Disney or Viacom, who owns SpongeBob and Nickelodeon, I'm like, you know, to me that feels a little bit more fair use casey. I think that doing SpongeBob fan art is kind of a modern art movement, honestly, with how prevalent SpongeBob is in meme culture and fan art culture. People make SpongeBob anime, shit like that, which I am just so impressed by. To me, it's sort of, SpongeBob in a way is like a medium for people to express their creativity. And that's where the Glorb music is so impressive to me, because if you're not aware, Glorb went really viral with their music video for their track The Bottom Part 2.
Oh, no, me boy, see, you've done it now. You are fucked.
That's part of the theme of my eyes grow. Sipping hella lean, smoking hydro. When I hit the reef, turn it tidal. Gary is my shadow, bitch, he go wherever I go.
Glorb is putting out full 3D cinematic music videos. The lyrics are really hilarious because this is essentially like murder drill rap music. The thing is, you know, in real life, if you have a little bit of an issue listening to this type of music because you don't want to listen to like real people glorifying murder and stuff like that, I get it. If you convert this into SpongeBob characters and you use the lore of their characters, like Mr. Krabs hating plankton or whatever, and you kind of conceive of this imaginary world where Bikini Bottom is in a gang war, and then you make music to it, you know, I think that that can be pretty funny, but then the next question is the music good? And a lot of parody music is not super respectful or good of a good portrayal of the music or the genre that they're trying to do. Glorb is something different where these songs are like actually really good. The production is really good, the mixing is like beyond professional. It's kind of crazy that these songs sound as good as they do.
Shadow waves keep crashing, the ops say yapping, the K keep coughing, yeah we mainstream trapping, on the Audi map rocking, the rings like 17, we took too much and team goes.
Oh, this money ain't the same. My heart frozen.
Funny how it changed, no emotion.
Tried to put that gun away. Kept blowing. Sunning through the pain to the bottom down.
Just a few days ago around Christmas, they put out the Bottom 3, and it is a catchy banger of a bop. And on top of that, like it was like number 7 on like YouTube Music. So like this isn't necessarily a niche thing. They have tens of millions of plays on their songs on Spotify. The 2 more niche songs by them that I was really into was Dumbbell by A$AP Larry, their Larry character. I just think that like the hook goes hard, all of it goes hard. I really enjoyed putting this on and like running at the gym. I know that there's a lot of people listening to me say this right now and they're like, but it's SpongeBob. And I get that, but like genuinely I think that this is just like catchy, fun, dumb music, and it's like I've been hearing these SpongeBob voices my whole life. So like at this point, hearing them rap or do music isn't even really that weird to me. Like I know, if that makes sense at all, like it feels familiar, like and not like jarringly stupid. The other song is Can Gangsters Cry, which is a pop country ballad from SpongeBob trying to get back Sandy. And I gotta say, really fucking catchy. And some of the lyrics, round here we got open carry, open bottles too. When the police came to my door, I was hoping it was you. Like, come on. Come on. Next up for March, let's talk a little bit about Joel Haver. So for all of you guys who don't know, Joel this year has abandoned the whole putting out a short every single week on his channel without ever missing a week artistic mission that he was doing for like 5 years. And this year he decided in 12 months, I'm gonna release 12 feature films. Now for him, he uses the Academy definition of 40 minutes and up, so some of his films are 40 minutes long or like an hour long, but some of them are like 2 hours or like 90 minutes, like full, like traditional feature length. And I think that a lot of them are just like really, really good films. I think that Joel like really puts his best foot forward when it comes to like just making filmmaking and trying to show it as like an accessible thing that people can do. One of my favorite movies of the year was his February film, Anyone Else But Me. And in March, he was doing his Oscars challenge for his movie, where every year for the Oscars, he says, hey, instead of watching the Oscars for 3 hours, how about you try to make a movie with your friends in 3 hours? And so every year in March, he kind of puts out like a 40-minute film. And in this case, this year's film, The Text, he really outdid himself with a 40-minute one-shot movie, a continuous 40-minute story. I think that they only recorded 3 takes for this, so they just for, you know, like several hours were just kind of filming this movie in a single sequence over and over again, and it turned out really good. And, you know, in past years, I've really wanted to participate in this challenge. I've wanted desperately to like exercise my filmmaking muscles more because I really, really want to direct movies, and I want to find a way to do it accessibly. The thing is I think a lot of filmmakers have in their mind like that they want to like grind the traditional freelance filmmaker route for like a decade until eventually like Mr. Hollywood is like, here, go make your movie, kid. And yes, I would definitely love to like be able to make something for like A24 or Neon or any of, you know, or Annapurna Pictures, like any of these like heralded, like more artistic film production companies. I would love to direct movies for them. However, as far as like how I get there, I definitely have been trying to go more the way of the internet and more the way of like getting people excited about my filmmaking through Tall Skeleton and through YouTube, and hopefully can kind of gain some sort of leverage and notoriety this way. And so seeing someone like Joel like actually do it, kind of pull off what I've had in mind all these years of like making movies and putting them on YouTube and they're actually good, is so exciting to me. And I feel like often the idea of doing big artistic things I haven't done before can be so daunting. I just put it off and put it off. And so this year I was like, I have to participate in this challenge. So in March, I got together with my friend Sadia and we made the film I'm Trying. In this movie, you know, we're loosely playing like fictional versions of ourselves. It's very slice of lifey, you know, people could call it mumblecore, whatever. But to me, like, I really enjoyed making this piece. I've rewatched it. I think it's good. And I know that it's just the first stepping stone to making way more things like this for me. And my whole thing is like, hey, if Joel Haver can make like 12 feature films with his friends in a single year, I'm like, maybe I can make one next year, even if it is like rough around the edges and very DIY or like mumblecore-y or self-autobiographical, whatever it is I need to do to like, you know, just get things made. I really want to start making more sketches. I really want to make like more like little mini animations. Anything that involves me doing filmmaking and sort of telling a story and putting it out on YouTube, and hopefully you guys are like enjoying it or watching it. That's much more the direction I want to be heading in as an artist and a filmmaker. And especially with this channel, I would love to have more people subscribe to me because they enjoy my original filmmaking, because that is like the main artistic goal I have. And so yeah, Joel's filmed the text as his Oscar challenge is amazing. I wound up making mine with Sadia, I'm Trying, and I'm just really proud that I got me and a friend to make something like that. Sadia is a longtime friend of mine and just such a supportive, amazing person and a musician herself. And so yeah, that's about that on that topic. Let's do a water break actually. I've been yapping. All right, next up, stand-up comedian Jordan Jensen, Death Chunk. Jordan Jensen, I think, is like one of the absolute funniest stand-up comedians out there right now. She is a darker comedian, but I think, like, I don't think she's like an edgelord, like annoying. Like, I think that she's like really funny, really good at crafting jokes, and I think that, you know, I think some comedians can be just kind of brash with their words and they can be really funny in that way, and then other people are really good at joke writing, and I think that she interweaves between the two really well, where she can just use her personality and like the force she has with how she performs to be really hilarious, but I think that also she has really well conceived premises and bits, and she's just a really funny comedian. Jordan wound up putting out not like a full special, but just like a long set on her YouTube called Death Chunk, and that shit was hilarious. I listened to it like 3 different times. Really enjoy Jordan Jensen. She's been really funny on the Adam Friedland show. I really like her appearances with Rick Glassman from Take Your Shoes Off. Jordan Jensen is great. Next up, Small Brained American and his Japan vlogs. This guy is like a travel vlog channel I totally forgot I found, but I was watching a lot of his videos, and like I remember his video in Japan just made me be like, man, I really want to go there someday. And this year, like, I feel like I know like so many goddamn people who went to Japan or are going next year. At this point, it's being like rubbed in my face how many people I know who have gone to Japan and have been like, I had an amazing trip. So I want to go there. I want to go there. That'd be fun. Next up, playing my hacked 3DS. Yeah, I forgot about this. I guess back in April is when I was getting really into like a Pokemon Platinum save file. I have not gotten to that since like the springtime, I think. But yeah, I wrote and going up mountains a lot. So yeah, I was kind of going on little hikes and bringing my DS, and once I would find a stopping point, I would just kind of enjoy the final semblances of good weather in Arizona before it becomes the ultra hot summer that we all hate. And I would just kind of play Pokemon Platinum. But also, I discovered that Pilot Wings on 3DS essentially is a flight simulator of Woohoo Island from Wii Sports Resort. If you know me in real life, you know that I love me some Wii Sports Resort and I love some Woohoo Island. And I always loved doing the flight simulator on the Wii. And I had no idea that there was like a DS game where you can essentially do that handheld. And I really love just doing that as like a fidget thing, because like sometimes when I'm in public and I don't totally want to sit there and just meditate, but I also don't want to be on my phone, that's when I would bring my 3DS with me. But even some games, you know, it's like you gotta use like, you're like in like entertainment world, or like you're following a story or using problem solving in your brain. Sometimes you don't want to do any of that. So just doing like a little airplane simulator was very fun. Highly recommend. Next up, one of my favorite songs this year that I kind of forgot about for a while is called Us Pretenders by Cluster. The way I found it is this channel called Brad Taste in Music. I wasn't super familiar with his channel, but he did a really good video reacting to and listening to the Jacob Collier album and just saying like everything he kind of disliked about it. And Jacob Collier is like obviously an extreme intellect when it comes to music theory and stuff. However, I think he's like a classic example of someone who's like very technically knowledgeable and trained, but then the output of their own music is kind of a lot of the time just not as interesting as you would want it to be. So Brad was kind of going through his album and talking about what he disliked about it, and I thought he was making really interesting points. And at one point he was like, here's some like weird good music that, you know, is a lot less traditional, but like a lot more musically interesting. And he pulled up this random song called Us Pretenders by Cluster, or like clust.r, whatever it is. And really, really good song. I was listening to that a lot. And the thing I like about it a lot is like, you can even argue that like the artist is like singing like off note or like out of key at various points, but it sounds good. You know, I think that we all have been kind of familiar with like bands where people are like, this guy isn't even a good singer or whatever, but like they make it work. And this was a case where this guy's vocal delivery was interesting and the production was great, and really like this song. Next up is getting back into Blender. Last year I was learning a lot of Blender 3D. I was doing tutorials, I had good momentum going, and it just kind of stopped, and that's been a little upsetting for me because I've really wanted just to be good at Blender so I can do, you know, cool renders or art pieces, or maybe get into like animated films a little bit more readily. And so I wound up getting more into it. First of all, I had to do like ragdoll physics for the QWERTY video, and some of that shit was like really confusing and complicated and wielded really funny, weird results. And then it's like when I finally got it working, it was just such a good feeling. So I definitely see the difficulty, but then in frustration leading into huge reward systems when it comes to learning Blender. And in April, I participated in the H3 green screen video editing contest. And for this contest, I wound up doing a shot where AB opens his suitcase and then it pours out a bunch of burritos. So I had to I had to 3D model AB's famous burrito, and then I had to simulate like some blocks opening pretty much in the way that the suitcase did in real life so that it like looked accurate. And you know, it's not perfect, but I wound up with a shot that looked pretty cool, and when it played on the show, like, you know, some people were like, whoa, that's cool. And so that was really exciting. And to speak more on that, yeah, so H3 had their second annual video editing contest, and I wound up being a semi-finalist. That was really exciting. I wound up losing to Jarrell, who won the entire thing in the next round. I'm buddies with Jarrell now. His piece was really impressive, really amazing, and I'm really excited that I got to the semi-finals. On the other side of the bracket, Bees from Space made an amazing, amazing piece, and he also was out as a semi-finalist. And he was one of those guys where when he posted his on YouTube before the contest happened and I saw it, I was like, ah, crap, I gotta worry about this. So it's kind of funny that he and I were both eliminated in the semifinals round, and then two other people made amazing pieces that were, you know, the final two. From there, that was kind of the start of me starting to make memes and getting them on the H3 show. So their old meme maker, Cameron, left the show, and I remembered that, you know, I think before he worked for them, he posted a ton of them on Discord and Reddit, and I just thought like, hey, that sounds fun. So, you know, it's like I already watched the show every day anyways. So what I started doing is during the show, you know, if they talked about something where I could think of like a funny visual representation of it, I would just like edit up a meme, posted it on Reddit and Discord, and eventually they started getting showed on the show, and that was like a really fun experience for me. I remember kind of early into doing it, there was a point where like I got like a 10 episode streak, like they showed memes that I made 10 episodes in a row. And this is something I kept doing until the very end of the year. And now at this point, I think in the year end, it wound up being like 155 memes or edits or whatever shown on the show. If you count my green screen contest entry and my video essay they talked about. If you don't count them, it's like around probably like 150 almost exactly or so. I'm really proud of all the work I've done. I'm really glad that people in their community think that the stuff I'm making is funny. And again, just like with the video essay, it's really exciting being recognized by a show that you enjoy, or you know, making something for a specific like creative community and having it like shown and spotlighted and complimented. All that's just fun, I guess. I don't really have a deeper thing to say about this. It's just it's fun. And then next up, Simulation Swarm by Big Thief. This is a song that I honestly would have thought would be like my #1 for the year potentially. I was listening to this on repeat all the time. This song just makes me happy and emotional, and it's like kind of sad. Like this song checks a lot of boxes for me. It's really beautiful and amazing. I think I'm gonna make some sort of a video or film set to it, and yeah, Simulation Swarm by Big Thief. Shout out Adrian Lanker. Next up for May, the Kendrick disses. Don't really have much more to say than that, other than just I was listening to Euphoria like a lot in 6:16 a.m. in LA, whatever, you know. Those songs, really fucking good. Shout out Kendrick. A Fox in Space. I am surprised I didn't know about this sooner. My friend Chandler got me into this. So this guy, like years ago, put out this insanely impressive kind of like space noir piece called A Fox in Space, based around the characters of Star Fox. Tonally, this shit is amazing. It reminds me of like old like, I don't know if you would say like spaghetti westerns or what, but like the quality of the voice recordings is very interesting and retro feeling, and the quality of the animation, I think all being mostly done by one guy, if I remember correctly, is insanely good. And then finally, like years later, he put out the second episode, which is even more impressive to me. And just the whole world of A Fox in Space to me is like why I think like fan art and using the IP of like bigger entities like Nintendo is really important and legitimately fair use transformative art, because to me this does not in any way take away from Nintendo or from Star Fox. It is a transformative work for a completely new audience, and if anything will get people into the source material more, not less.
That's a bag of news that stole my scooter.
Hey, you watch your mouth.
That's quite an accusation. I mean, have you got any proof?
No, but I know he's the...
Do nothing about it if there ain't no proof.
But that's the friggin' guy, though!
Falco, honey, you don't want your father getting in trouble again.
But Ma, I swear to God!
Wow!
Sorry!
You better watch it.
I said I was sorry. Are you really just gonna let him...
Shut up and eat your fucking fazoo!
Yes, sir.
Language, Carlo.
And so yeah, I cannot recommend A Fox in Space enough. The YouTube channel for them, they even sometimes do live streams showing him work on the animated film, and like anytime like really big artists like have that level of transparency, it's really exciting to me. Which leads me to a good segue, which is reading Starting Point by Hayao Miyazaki finally. For those of you who don't know, not only are there like tons of Miyazaki documentaries, but also he has like these books, Starting Point and Turning Point, which are collections of essays and speeches by him. And it's like, you know, a lot of times the biggest, most legendary artists, people like Hayao Miyazaki, you would kind of expect to be mysterious, have a huge mystique around them. It's never quite sure like how they do the things they do, or like getting interviews from them is kind of rare. In the case of Miyazaki, he is like extremely giving with how many studio documentaries there are showing the process of the making of Studio Ghibli movies. And these books are just a huge case of that. I wound up only reading like half of Starting Point. I've been a little bit of a rusty reader these days, so I need to get back into that, but can't recommend enough. I was also just doing more Blender work, kind of doing these like low poly character designs of Gambino and young Fika. Furthermore, the Donald Glover Childish Gambino Gilga radios. So Gilga Radio is this thing where Donald Glover was doing these live streams where he would first kind of do a radio set just playing music he likes, and they would be sprinkled in with like fake ads that were like really funny, like a fake Terrence Howard commercial using his voice and AI, but then he would use it to premiere new songs. And so what's really interesting is Donald premiered one of his song remixes that came out on his new deluxe album, but on top of that, he wound up streaming some songs that never came out. And so one of those was Couldn't Be All, which is like a classic Childish Gambino rap song and not him in singing mode at all. It's amazing. I think it sucks that it didn't formally come out. I think that people have really wanted this type of like rap from Gambino for a really long time, and the fact that he finally gave it to us in a really niche live stream is very him, but also I'm like, damn, I wish people could hear this and love this. Next, he put out a song called Say Less, and it's him and Kanye raps so well on it that people literally were in the comments saying this is either AI or this is from years ago, because people are like, I have not heard Kanye rap this well since like 2016 Life of Pablo. Like people were saying, this sounds like pre-Nazi Kanye, who has been putting out less interesting music. And finally, Gambino put out the song that a lot of his fans have had leaked for years, which is Warlords with him and Kid Cudi. Somebody tweeted at Kid Cudi saying that song should come out and they should work together more, and Cudi said like, no thanks on Twitter. And on Gilga Radio, Donald addressed this being like, man, like I hate beef, like, you know, me and Tyler, like we're out there on stage being friends at Coachella, like Cudi, what the hell? And then on the next Gilga Radio, he played Warlords. So I don't know if that was like a beef thing of like kind of shoving it in Cudi's face as a way of being like, here's this amazing song that everybody likes and I'm gonna let people listen to it on my little like Instagram, YouTube stream. And if you hear about it, you hear about it. Or I don't know if it was a sign of them reconciling in any way, but I think that song would have been on 3:15:20 or Ada Vista or something like that if it was supposed to. So I'm gonna assume Cudi and Gambino have some sort of weird behind the scenes disagreement clearly. But that song, Warlords, if you listen to like the leak of it on YouTube or whatever, you know, Donald himself has leaked it and it's a really good song. Next up, Animal Well. I made a whole video essay about this, but it is an indie game made literally entirely by one person. He made the video game, he made the music, the sound effects, he literally made the game engine, he made the game in. What that even means, I'm not a coder, I don't totally know, but he literally made the engine, the program, whatever, that he then created the game in. So this dude literally, from the ground up, made Animal Well. The game is only like $20. The file to the game is 30 megabytes. And it's a big, I don't even know how that's possible. And finally, this game was picked up by Video Game Donkey's game publishing company to be the first game they ever release. So it was released by Donkey's company, Big Mode. I think the Donkey endorsement is very valuable and coveted in the gaming space, or at least it should be. So yeah, shout out Billy Basso's game, Animal Well, really good. I made a whole video essay about it if you wanna hear me talk about it more. Next up on Twitch, Yellow Spoon Girl. Wound up meeting my friend Bella, who streams on Twitch. She is a painter and she does really fun, cozy painting streams on Twitch. And Bella is a really, really cool person, and I recommend following them. They put out cool paintings and like funny Instagram reels. When they go on Twitch, they paint and just do fun stuff. And so yeah, shout out Yellow Spoon Girl. More TV shows, Blue Eye Samurai. Blue Eye Samurai was a sort of American, like I guess you could call it anime thing, where it takes place in Japan, but it is an American-made show on Netflix, but the art style is really unique. They did the thing where they make 3D look like 2D with cel shading, kind of similar to the Wind Waker Legend of Zelda, And it is a really amazing show. I was super surprised to find out that the lead is Maya Erskine from Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Pen 15, and the rest of the cast is really, really good too. To me, it feels like if you took Avatar: The Last Airbender, like tonally, with the blend of serious stuff and funny, goofy stuff, but then you took a show like that and you made it R-rated with like some violence and nudity and things like that. So can't recommend Blue Eye Samurai enough. I watched it like twice. Hell, I might have watched it thrice. Can't quite remember. Oh yeah, A24 put like a few of their best films in IMAX this year. I got to see Uncut Gems in IMAX. That shit ruled. I know that for some people that would be like the biggest anxiety experience of all time. I freaking loved it. This was a good month for going to the movies too. I saw Challengers. I'll admit, the first chunk of Challengers, I was not super into it. I had a lot of criticisms for the movie, or at least things that were heavily distracting me about the movie. The further it went on and the more the plot onion kind of unraveled itself, the more I was like, okay, wait, this movie isn't what I thought it was. This is really good. Next up, I saw The TV Glow. I think is a really interesting movie. There's a lot about it I really like. There's a lot about it where I'm like, I don't know if I would have done it that way, but like, you know, that's just me. And I think that the filmmaker, Jane Schoenberg, did like a really amazing job in making a super personal, unique piece. It's definitely a very melancholy, weird, tonal movie. Maybe not something you would watch in like a sad state of mood per se, but aesthetically, it's really, really beautiful with its colors and its camera work. The soundtrack is amazing. I got obsessed with the band Yule the artist Yule did a cover of a song by Broken Social Scene, which is on the I Saw the TV Glow soundtrack. And that was like one of my absolute favorite songs of the year. I think that this rendition of it was beautiful. It has like these like swelling violins and stuff, and like, yeah, was listening to the soundtrack a lot. It had Caroline Polachek, it had Francis from Hop Along, lots of really good stuff. And finally, Furiosa. I only got to see it once, unfortunately, but Furiosa was really good, underrated. People who like Mad Max Fury Road, like, go watch Furiosa. It's like basically just as good. I remember something one of my friends said on Letterboxd was like, I was going to give this 4 out of 5 stars, but then I remembered if Mad Max Fury Road didn't exist, I would be giving this 5 stars. So I'm giving it 5 stars. And that's pretty much how I feel. It was really freaking good. Finally for May, got to release my Godzilla comedy sketch cartoon. This was really exciting because I've been wanting to put out comedy sketches for a long time, been wanting to get into cartooning, and I'm glad that this was just a little simple idea I was able to make happen. I had the idea at the end of 2023, and I definitely wanted it out sooner this year, but the beginning of the year got consumed by the H3 video essay, the Cordy video, the other Cordy video. So it happened when it happened, but I got to get some voice work from my friend Nick, who does 03 Mania, also just known as Mania. He does amazing cartoons that he puts out on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels. His page has been kind of blowing up more recently. And Mania is like a huge inspiration for me as an artist because his color palettes are like literally my favorite colors, and I think that it's so impressive that he's able to put out like a short, funny little animated piece as frequently as he does. And when I talk to him about his process and stuff, he literally just draws drawings in Procreate on his iPad, and I think he compiles them into a video editing software. And so this is probably not the way, like the most optimized way to do it, but like I kind of did the Godzilla cartoon by just doing drawings in Photoshop and then importing them into Premiere and After Effects. And, you know, it might have been a little bit of a dumb way to do it, but just getting things done and making things and just deciding I'm gonna figure out a way to make this is definitely the artistic philosophy I'm trying to have with making things. Just to make sure that, you know, I'm making ideas in my head and not letting the whole like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or doing that is way too difficult for me to approach route. And I'm like, hey, I have a little idea for a cartoon. I know how to use Photoshop. I know how to use Premiere. I like to draw. Let's figure it out. And so I'm really glad I got to release that. Moving on to June, Brat by Charlie XCX came out. Loved it like everybody else. I still vastly prefer her 2020 album, How I'm Feeling Now. That's one of my favorite albums of like the last decade I've listened to probably. But Brat is great. My favorite song is Everything is Romantic, and I might say something stupid. Great. Next up, I wound up directing a video, LSD, for Chloe Tang. I really wanted to challenge myself to get better at lighting. For this one, we did much more of a clean kind of studio look, and so me and my friend Michael Scott put together the lighting for this video, and then I also shot and directed it myself. We had Michael on B-Cam. Shout out Michael, thank you Michael. And I'm really proud of the looks we did. I did this little YouTube short where I sort of explained the process of how I did the lighting on like this really clean shot I'm super proud of. And yeah, I've been a little bit daunted by getting better at cinematography and lighting for a while. And so in this case, I got to borrow a bunch of lights from my friend Josh, who's an amazing filmmaker. And I'm really excited just about how this came out visually. And so yeah, this was like a classic instance of, you know, doing something challenging and being a little bit daunted by it and then feeling really proud and rewarded on the other side. And so now I definitely just have a lot more confidence for like the future of my cinematography and lighting. Next up, got to make a live action sketch finally. My friend Dylan, and then also Nick Mania himself doing some live action editing. The three of us put out this little 11/11 sketch, and I'm really proud I got to make something like this year. You know, for a long time I've been very inspired by the fact that Joel has made a dumb funny video like this with his friends once every single week without missing for like 5 years or so. And I'm like, hey, if I have like a dumb idea that I write down, I should just find a way to make it with my friends. And so this was a really approachable first one to make. And I'm really hoping to do more of that kind of thing going into the new year. I also really enjoyed Inside Out 2, and that also gave me the idea for like a skit. So I wound up doing kind of like a drawn storyboard skit where instead of animation, the skit was like told through still drawings, which were done by my friend Axel. And what's funny is when I had the idea for it and I was trying to picture like who would play Anxiety from Inside Out 2, for whatever reason, my first thought was Morgan Smalley, who was somebody that I didn't know and was featured on H3 this year. Literally in June, I wound up going to Los Angeles. I went to the H3 live show at the Greek Theater, and I'm standing outside, and who do I run into but Morgan? And we kind of hit it off, and I asked her, hey, would you want to do voice acting sometime? And so like next thing I knew, I literally wound up having like my dream person to voice this character doing it. And so shout out Morgan for doing the voice work for me on this video. It was really fun. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And then back to going to the H3 live show. I've been to I've been to 3 H3 live shows now. And I gotta say that this one at the Greek Theater, I thought was easily their best. The second it started, they were like, here's what we're doing. We're playing all these games with the crew. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna stick to schedule, boom, boom, boom. And it just, to me, went like clockwork. I thought it was just such a fun, entertaining show of them just doing like fun games and challenges. And I wound up getting to meet Ethan and Hila after the show, like, you know, just down at the stage, and they were super, super nice to me. I got my 3DS autograph. That was super fun, even though it's like pretty much worn off completely now. But yeah, that was just a really fun night. And then also while I was in Los Angeles, I wound up going to the Comedy Store, and I got to see Adam Ray do a performance as his Dr. Phil character. It was in the belly room, and I was like up kind of in like the balcony area. What's so funny about the belly room at the Comedy Store is like it's such a tiny room that like if one of the other comedians is like waiting to do their set after whoever's currently on stage, you kind of just see them as like a normal person just shoved off in the corner, just kind of standing there. And so it was so funny just seeing Adam Ray dressed up as Dr. Phil in a dark room, just kind of standing in a corner behind a door, just like not even awkwardly, but just like idling by. And then once he went up there, he killed it. It was really, really fun. Moving into July, I was obsessed with Lithonia by Childish Gambino off his new album, Bando Stone and the New World. The thing is when he started doing the marketing campaign for this single and album, the whole chorus thing that he sings, I had a whole different idea of what this song was going to sound like, and I didn't know like how interested I was by like just the little chorus thing that he sang. But then when the song comes out and it comes crashing in with like electric guitar and these like really spacey synthesizers, I was like, oh, I was not expecting this to be like a rock ballad whatsoever. So I wound up really, really liking that song. Off his full album, Yoshinoya is another like classic like rap Childish Gambino song, which we don't get a lot of these days. That one rules, and there's a lot of really cool songs on that album. Next up, some like actually good superhero stuff for once. My Hero Academia Season 7, I was so into, I loved it so much. I swear like towards the back half especially, like every single episode, it was like, holy shit, how are they gonna get out of this? How are they gonna top this? How are they gonna deal with this? Like this show just has like had me so entertained. And also like, yeah, the villains are like so well done. It does kind of veer more into like R-rated territory. It's not like totally like a childish anime the way I think it's like depicted sometimes. And yeah, My Hero Academia and just sort of the stakes they've set up with like their plot challenges and antagonists and stuff. I think the way it culminated in the season 7 was amazing. And then also, The Boys, Season 4. I think The Boys is just such a good show. I think that Anthony Starr as Homelander deserves an Emmy. I think that if he goes this entire run of being like the best villain on TV, one of the best actors in TV without getting an award for it, like, it would suck. I think that would be ridiculous. So definitely give Anthony Starr a trophy for Homelander at some point. And listen, I don't think awards mean everything, but I know that they mean something to some other people. The thing is like when people get awards and these accolades, it does often lead to like the Hollywood machine being like, oh, we like this guy, we should give this guy more stuff. And so to me, it's not really about the award so much as it is getting the recognition that leads to potential for a bigger career. And so when there's artists that I really love, I'm just kind of like, well, if they do get an award, if they do recognition, we get to get more stuff from that person. So when it comes to Anthony Starr, I'm like, this guy is clearly a phenomenal actor. I would love to see him, you know, celebrated by the Emmys or the Golden Globes or whatever, so then that way maybe people are more likely to cast him in other great projects in the future. Next up, some projects by Jarrell Hill. He wound up putting out the Jomo Show, which is a very hard to explain concept, but the first episode in particular is really amazing. He did like really crazy visual effects sequences. The Jomo Show, like I guess in short, is kind of going around doing kind of experimental documentary type work, like showing people who are like trying to make it, trying to be like famous, just being weird characters in public essentially. And so that really lends itself to him like filming in New York and sort of showing content creators or whatever, you know, what have you. So yeah, shout out Jomo Show episode 1. In particular is like really good. And then this also led to me finding some of Jarrell's older work. He has a film called Pointing in the Wrong Direction. I believe that this is a series that he's going to continue upon over time, but again, I'm always super impressed by indie animation and people doing interesting, innovative stuff. And the way he sort of combines traditional 2D animation, 3D stuff, comping in real footage of real people into shots, and then also making the 3D environment, the city that everything exists in, you know, using I think like Grand Theft Auto 5 to do this. I think that it's just a really innovative, scrappy, independent film animation piece, and I really recommend Pointing in the Wrong Direction off the channel Magical Spider Monkey. And finally, I got really into listening to interviews and podcast appearances from the creators of Smiling Friends. Zach Hadel, otherwise known as the YouTube channel Psychic Pebbles, and then also Michael Cusack. There is tons and tons of interviews and podcasts from these guys. Honestly, it's like so great how many of them there are. And I got really creatively inspired again by just like the scrappiness and the DIY-ness and the, you know, making things with friends kind of attitude that Psychic Pebbles, Zach, and Michael had. And I think that Smiling Friends is like a really fun, exciting show. This was me getting into the show. I was like really obsessed with all the episodes. And like, again, I just really love seeing people from like non-traditional routes like make it, and seeing these guys as like YouTube animators getting like the new big Adult Swim cartoon on their hands. Like, to me, that's just so exciting and inspiring, and it makes me feel more confident in the potential for my journey as a filmmaker by doing it in this kind of non-traditional starting point through YouTube. And you know, when I see stuff like Smiling Friends or Joel Haver, I'm like, hey, I can make it. I can figure out my own way. That's really cool. So yeah, shout out. Next up, I wound up marathon running through rewatching Better Call Saul in August. Wound up getting all the way up to like halfway through season 5, I think. Spoiler alert, but over the next few months, I essentially finished all of Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, El Camino, and then I was also listening to like all the DVD commentaries because I found out that there's some guy on YouTube that uploaded the full-length DVD commentary of every single episode of both of those shows and the movie. And like, to me, the Breaking Bad universe is like the best filmmaking I've ever seen, or at least the most captivating. Like every time I watch it, I'm like, I have never been more captivated by what I'm watching than Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And so getting to listen also to these DVD commentaries of like the creators and the actors and the filmmakers and the crew members like all talk about what went into making these episodes was just so cool and fun. So it was just really fun deep diving back through this stuff. Next up, the new album by Peter Cat Recording Company, Beta. Really beautiful album. If you guys aren't familiar, they make really pretty music. The lead singer has a beautiful voice, you know, they play guitar and traditional instruments, but they also kind of mix in some more modern things sometimes, like synthesizers or auto-tune, and it's a really interesting combination for some just kind of relaxing singing guitar instrument type music. I don't even really know what I would call it. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the band is from India. Not 100% on that, but yeah, Peter Cat Recording Company, new album, Beta, is great. The last few years I've been listening to their last album, Bismillah, from 2019 a lot, and so yeah, one of my favorite artists in recent years. Next up was filming the Amazon Jimmy comedy sketch. Again, just really fun, just kind of busting out a comedy sketch. I think that me and Dylan filmed this whole thing in like 90 minutes or so, or maybe like a little bit over an hour. And then I just kind of wound up getting together with my friend Sedona to film her little part. And yeah, I'm again just proud of making something. This one wound up getting featured on H3 as well, in collaboration with the Jomo Show. And so again, this was another exciting time where I kind of got to get my stuff a little bit more exposure out there to a bigger audience, and it was just really fun. Okay, next up, Elephant Graveyard. Guys, this channel is so funny and so well executed. He is doing essentially almost like experimental commentary pieces on a lot of the modern bad comedians. His big video that took off was his commentary video on Joe Rogan's new special, Burning the Boats. And this video is hilarious, infinitely more funny than the comedy special he's riffing on. The thing about this guy is he doesn't just do a straight up video essay or like traditional commentary piece. He does them in more artistic, kind of creative ways. So with this one, he initially starts it as if he's a Joe Rogan fan and he's talking about like how great and excited he is about the new Rogan special. And then as it's going poorly and he's reacting to some of the bad stuff, he has all these like, oh no, Joe, no, what are you doing? And you know, he kind of has these kind of quippy, like personality-based comedic responses to Joe's material as a way of pointing out what's wrong with it in a more different, fun way than just a traditional commentary person just being like, look at how bad this is. And yeah, this guy's creative output is really impressive. He has hilarious kind of takedown videos of Brendan Schaub and how like not good of a comedian he is. He has this radio hour where he has this like fictional Neil deGrasse Tyson obsessed with the concept of combos, and he's just constantly haranguing people about combos and his interest in them, which you might be thinking, what the fuck does that even mean? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So check out Elephant Graveyard, really funny channel. If you were gonna start with any one video, I recommend the Joe Rogan Burn the Boats commentary. This video actually wound up getting taken down by somebody. I don't know if it was Netflix or Joe Rogan himself, but it wound up going back up, and you know, people, I think likely because people loved this video and thought it was hilarious, and they probably were, you know, bombing like the Joe Rogan subreddit or something, being like, bring this video back. So yeah, Elephant Graveyard, shout out. Okay, in September, I literally got more sick than I think I've ever been in my entire life, and I was just bedridden beginning my Breaking Bad binge after finishing Better Call Saul. I got into Pokemon fan games. There's a really cool Gen 5 fan game called Pokemon Uranium. I also found out about Emerald Sea Glass, would love to look into that in the future. Was listening to the Breaking Bad DVD commentaries, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, September, like honestly, like half of it was eaten up by being sick, and kind of being into a lot of the stuff I was already into. Media-wise, don't have a whole lot to say. Like, I literally wrote down here, started buying Whataburger spicy ketchup from the grocery store. And I gotta say, did this level up my culinary game at home? Yes. Do I think it's necessarily worth telling you guys about? Probably not. Am I still telling you about it? Yes, here I am right now, baby. So, you know, hey, it is what it is. Okay, next up, October. I wound up getting to, then also finally in August and September, I was like taking care of these kittens. They were super cute. They were consuming my life a lot. And I really wanted to adopt one of them, was not really able to, but I have tons of really cute footage of these guys, and I still think about them a lot, honestly, and finding a shelter for them was pretty difficult. But I mean, what do I even say about this? I don't know, they're cute and I miss them. Okay, I think I missed it, but at some point earlier this year, I filmed Estelle Allen. I put out a live show video of them that I'm really proud of. Estelle is a great musician, and their opener was Belgium Tree, a local artist from Arizona. And Belgium Tree, as a band, their release, Structure Play, I think is like my one of my absolute like top 2 favorite music releases of this year, and they were amazing. So I wound up filming one of their own shows at Crescent Ballroom, putting that out on YouTube. And so, you know, after doing all this live music recording, I wound up getting asked to film Magdalena Bay's show at Crescent Ballroom in Phoenix. Right now you can watch the Magdalena Bay concert I filmed on my YouTube channel, Tall Skeleton, and I'm really proud of how this recording came out. And at the time, I was a little familiar with Magdalena Bay, but like not super, so I wound up going through the album, and I was like, holy shit, Imaginal Disc is literally my favorite album of the year. I've been listening to it nonstop, it's amazing. So it's just really exciting that like I even got to film them do that entire show at Crescent so up close, and I'm just really excited that I have that footage in my portfolio now. And finally, their opener, Volgar, was like a experimental electropop group from Mexico, and they came out with like costumes and props, and like the guy on the drum machine was like just going crazy. Really crazy performance. I have some footage of that I haven't done anything with, and yeah, shout out Volgar as the opener for Magdalena Bay. Okay, next up, getting back into Mario Kart, baby. So if you know me in real life, you know that I constantly am struggling with like low storage space on my memory cards and my phones, you know, because I just take so many photos and videos. And same goes for my Switch, where my Switch was out of storage space for a really long time. So I couldn't really play most of my Switch library because like to download updates for them, I didn't even have enough space. So I finally bit the bullet. I finally got a new SD card for my Switch and was able to re-download all my game updates and shit like that. And we are back, baby. It is Mario Kart 8 territory, and October was honestly maybe the most fun month of the year. Not being sick anymore, I was just trying to get really back into speed on like working on creative things, but also having fun in my personal life. Me and my now girlfriend, we got to like go out to just see a whole bunch of movies, do tons of really fun things. And so one of the things that I got to go see was the Saturday Night Live movie. I thought that that was amazing, one of my absolute favorites of the year. The Saturday Night Live movie is basically like if you took Steve Jobs the movie but just made it SNL, and for me, like I am the audience for that. I fucking love the movie Steve Jobs and that whole filmmaking Sorkin style, and you know, I've been a big fan of SNL for a long time in my life, and so love that movie. But also the movie Anora, so amazing. It like wasn't even really on my radar. Thank you to my girlfriend for, you know, suggesting we go see that and telling me about that movie. Anora is like my favorite movie of the year, I think, you know, new movie. Perfect Days is a little bit more personal to me, although it is technically a 23 movie. So for like a clean through and through, this is a 2024 release film. Anora is amazing, and one thing I will say is like I cannot be happier that I knew nothing about it going in. If you watch the trailer, I think it might hook you, but honestly, I think the trailer really does reveal too much about the plot turns that the movie takes. And so I personally really would just say, hey, if you're down to go watch like a really funny, fun, like new movie, go watch Anora. It's rated R for like a lot of like sexuality type stuff, but you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, go see Honora. My roommates wound up convincing me to buy the Halo Master Chief Collection, so more video gaming this year. I was honestly, I'm like, holy shit, you can have like the first 6 Halos for $40 on your computer. That's amazing. So I wound up playing through the whole story of Halo 1, was playing a bunch of multiplayer with my roommates. Also wound up getting to finally watch Over the Garden Wall. I loved it. It was such a good show. The characters are great. The art style is great. And it is way older than I thought it was. Like, I've been hearing about Over the Garden Wall for so many years, and I didn't realize how many years it really had been. I thought it was a lot more recent than it is. And then also finally for October, I got my first ever official paid freelance work for the H3 show. I wound up doing these like corner motion graphics on the side, and when they pop up, they're just kind of funny little additions to the show. And so thank you so much, H3, for having me for doing those edits. Okay, also, can't believe I forgot to mention this earlier. Sorry for the second camera angle jump scare, but Saga. Saga is an amazing graphic novel that I was gifted last year, and I'm sorry I did not pick it up until recently, but from October through now, today is December 30th, I have read this before bed pretty much every night, and last night I finished it, and this is amazing. A few years ago I read Watchmen, and you know, I've been having a harder time getting back into reading, but graphic novels has been an easy way to kind of transition into reading more regularly, you know, because there's pictures and stuff. It's a pretty harrowing tale made up of a lot of different stories, mostly centering around this family running away through the cosmos from like galactic governments. It features pretty much every single fantasy thing you can think of, from robots to ghosts to monsters to dragons to magic to, you know, people with horns, people with wings. But the thing is it's like very R-rated, it's very adult, and it's very much so like an allegory for war and violence and peace times. It mostly thematically centers around, you know, discussions of colonialism, genocide, like interracial marriage, things like that. It is a very, very powerful, entertaining, funny, sexy at times piece. Cannot recommend Saga enough. This is Compendium 1, and if I'm not mistaken, the story has continued from here, and really excited to read more of it. Okay, next up in November, Sickness Round 2. I wound up getting freaking COVID, dude. All my roommates had COVID. I was sick again. Drove me insane because in September I was literally more sick than I've ever been for like 10 whole days. To the point that in November when I got COVID, it wasn't even as bad as what I had in September. So like, was I really annoyed that I couldn't go out and see people and that I had like a sore throat and stuff? Yes. Was I super grateful it wasn't as bad as what I went through a few months prior? So much yes. So what did I do in November during my next quarantine, you may ask? Well, I played through Halo 2. A lot of playing Halo, frankly. I wound up working a lot on my Lo-Fi Girl video essay, which is now out. You can watch it on the channel. I started watching Adam Friedland's show a lot more on YouTube, and like their podcast he has with Nick, which is basically Come Town without Stav. And then also Adam wound up putting out a stand-up set called 2 Nights in London that I thought was really funny. And then in the back half of November, finally feeling better, got to watch Scavenger's Reign, which was a HBO original cartoon, which is now also on Netflix. This is an amazing show. The animation style is so unique, really amazing. The creature designs and the line work and just the way it's drawn is so cool. The color palettes they use look great, and it is like a really emotional roller coaster ride, and it's kind of like this big ethereal think piece on just the general concept of like life and death and stuff like that, showing these human characters in this unfamiliar planet with all this insane, like deadly natural stuff around them that they can't quite understand because they're alien species and an alien wildlife. It is, I can't recommend Scavenger's Reign enough. I put it off for a long time, and now that I finally watched it, I'm like, damn, I should have watched that a long time ago. Next up, getting back into drawing. So I know that so far I've already mentioned several bouts this year with getting back into drawing and making art, but it's been hard to kind of keep it totally consistent. And I wound up watching the videos PewDiePie did about how he started drawing every day for 30 days, and then 100 days, and then an entire year. And seeing his before and after progress was like really amazing. And I know that a lot of the art community, when they saw PewDiePie's drawing progress in such a short period of time, they got really hard on themselves. And they were like, oh, I'm gonna quit art. Like even this random YouTuber who's never done art before made more progress in 1 year than I've had in 5. And you know, obviously that's like a very pessimistic way of looking at it. And I watched some other art channels react to his progress in a really positive way. And they were pointing out like, okay, yeah, this guy is like a rich YouTuber or whatever. But honestly, they were saying, it seems like according to him, he was really just practicing like 1 hour a day. And he was like really focused on his path of, I'm gonna focus on eyes and then whole faces and then perspective, and how he sort of gradually worked himself up to just keep challenging himself and getting better and better was really authentic to like anyone getting better at art at like any income level. And so I set out to try and draw like every single day for like 30 days or 100 days. Maybe I could make a YouTube video about it. And I'll admit, I've had a bunch of days that I've missed. So if I do make a video showing an art journey, I'm gonna have to fudge it a little bit on the whole like I drew every day for 30 days thing. But since late November, I've been drawing a lot more consistently. I did get like a really long streak in a row of doing it every day. And I gotta say, just even getting back into the practice, even if it's like every day for 2 weeks or something, like I could feel myself getting better and getting faster and stuff. And I've been primarily working on developing my art style for drawing characters. I'm really inspired by Adventure Time and Hannah K. Nystrom, who storyboards for them, and Tay Time, and just a bunch of other artists like Anoko. I wound up actually drawing Magdalena Bay, and then I wound up taking pictures of my drawings and throwing them into Photoshop, and I was kind of doing them as digital paintings. And something I started doing the month before in October was I began live streaming me doing editing. I started streaming me doing editing on the Lo-Fi Girl video essay, but also some of my digital painting work. As of recently, what I announced is when I continue to live stream on YouTube, when the broadcast is over, I'm going to unlist it and it'll be available on Patreon. My Patreon is accessible at as low as $1. $1 will get you a special thanks on my projects. However, in order to get Patreon exclusive content, you'll have to go to the next higher tier, which is $3 a month. So if you ever need like the backlogs of my live streams, you can get them for $3 on my Patreon, just so you know. But yeah, getting back into drawing, doing digital paintings, stuff like that, streaming them with an audience was really fun. And I'm just really excited to see what sort of progress I make going into the new year. Next up, I finished Breaking Bad and El Camino and all the DVD commentaries, and so my roommate said, okay, now you gotta watch the classic. You gotta finally watch Sopranos, which I've never seen before. Right now, all this time later, a month later, I'm in the very beginning of season 3 and loving it. The Sopranos is monumentally different from Breaking Bad, and you can see how they're very different television cultural landscapes and how like one definitely had to come before the other. And The Sopranos is really good. Everything people have said for years about it being one of the best TV shows ever is completely deserved. And then next up, they brought back Godzilla -1 to theaters. That was like my favorite movie last year. If you guys missed it, it is a Japanese Godzilla movie, not one of the American Godzilla vs. Kong films. This is a Japanese film, and to me it has Oscar-level performances. Godzilla -1 is like truly a dramatic cinematic movie. It is like so good. The acting is amazing, the cinematography, the writing, like everything about it is an amazing movie. I'm pretty sure you can watch it on Netflix right now. If you want to watch like a big blockbuster film that also has like the heart and filmmaking quality that you might get out of some other really well-regarded ones, whether it's The Dark Knight or what, watch Godzilla -1. I do not think you will be disappointed. Okay, December, what have I been up to? Well, this has been like a really rushed, just gone by super fast month. For one thing, I did my next editing job for H3. I wound up doing a bunch of motion graphics for their Dungeons & Dragons end of year special. I did these graphics for like dice rolls, hit point results, I did fun character stuff of Dan being attacked by an ettercap. I did some stuff of like webs slinging by and hitting the walls, or like an arrow sticking into the wall. So yeah, had a lot of fun working on that. Again, thank you H3 for having me, giving me some work. Also, I've been playing Mario Kart 8 with my friends a lot, and lately I've been trying to get good at 200cc, which is like the extra fast mode. I have never been good at this before, but I've been figuring it out lately. And while I've been getting into Mario Kart 200cc, I've been getting back into the Glorb SpongeBob AI music. They just put out the Bottom Part 3, and this song is a certified slapper. It was like number 7 on YouTube Music when it first came out. It already has like over 1 million views in like 3 days of release. And I gotta say, there's something about listening to just super intense SpongeBob drill music and playing Mario Kart going so fast. The combination is so good. I like to believe that Glorb is a performance enhancing drug for playing Mario Kart, but that's just me. Okay, next up, in the same vein as getting back into Overwatch earlier this year, I started playing the new one, Marvel Rivals. Pretty much everybody is kind of calling this just Overwatch, but Marvel, because it's essentially the same type of game, but it's actually really fun. Don't have too much more to say about that. I've been playing with my friends Avery and Jarrell. Also, I like never watch Twitch, but my one buddy Avery streams on Twitch as a Mega Awesome Nerd, and he was playing Marvel Rivals. I wound up playing with him on stream one time, and that was really fun. And so yeah, shout out Marvel Rivals, shout out Mega Awesome Nerd. He does video game stuff, Nintendo, Paper Mario. As of recent, I finally got to catch up on some Jujutsu Kaisen with my best friend, and I'm almost done with it. I'm loving it so much. The movie was so good. And finally, in the same vein of just watching stuff with your friends, Joel Haver's most recent movies have been really good. For one thing, he put out a ridiculous movie called The Diarrhea Brothers Save the Day. It is as outrageous as that title sounds, and it is a hilarious, fun movie. I super recommend just watching with a friend and having a dumb laugh. If you love like South Park or Borat or Anchorman or anything, or Step Brothers, whatever, The Diarrhea Brothers Save the Day is a free movie on YouTube by Joel Haver and his friends, Trent and Alec, and it is so funny. Like, it is ridiculous, and it just really kind of, watching it with my friend Dylan, pointed out to us how they just don't really make them like that anymore. The dumb, silly comedies these days in theaters are far and few between, so if you want like a really fun, dumb laugh, something that might remind you of like Tim and Eric or like South Park, Team America, I recommend The Diarrhea Brothers Save the Day.
Leonard, come here. Turn around.
And finally, he put out another comedy movie right after just simply called The Ninth Movie. It's sort of a meta movie where Joel and his friends play themselves and they're hanging out to celebrate his 9th movie he made this year, and chaos ensues. I'll say, if you're watching The Ninth Movie and you're thinking to yourself early in, I see where this is going, I would say I don't think you totally do. I think that this movie is really funny and it's really simple, but there's also like unexpected elements to it that are just so hilarious. Me and my friend were just dying laughing watching it. I think this movie might have been like the hardest laughs I've had this whole year.
Guys,
What?
I'm getting an idea.
Why? Because you sat in the light? That was there before you sat down.
God!
No, we saw you just sit in the light.
What's the idea, Ryan?
Okay, another addendum. In December, literally in the last few days, I saw the Bob Dylan movie with Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown, and it was really, really good. I was really impressed by Timothy's performance as Bob Dylan. You know, it's like Bob Dylan is such a character. He's a really funny guy just in like his general disposition. And then I think that we all have sort of an association of like who Timothée Chalamet is as well. So they kind of combined into this odd new entity that I call like Bob Chalamet, but like it was a really good performance. The music was recorded live for the movie and it sounded really good. He did a really good job singing and playing guitar, and all of the other musician cameos from Joan Baez to Johnny Cash. It was just all really, really great. I really love how they framed the story, and yeah, recommend A Complete Unknown. It is definitely not like a joke of a movie. Okay, and next up, the stand-up comedian Josh Johnson. So if you don't know, he's a correspondent on The Daily Show right now. I've been really enjoying The Daily Show this year, ever since Jon Stewart came back, but he's only on once a week, and the rest of the week they focus mostly on their correspondents. They are all really, really funny, and a favorite of mine is Josh Johnson, who also does stand-up comedy. My friend Dylan was telling me the other day how, like, on his YouTube channel, he essentially has pretty frequent full specials about current events, and my first thought was like, okay, is this just a comedian like riffing on modern events? Is he kind of just talking, or is he doing like tight, well-written sets? And it actually is the latter. He has like an hour talking about the Young Thug YSL trial, Luigi Mangione as of recently, the Kendrick versus Drake stuff, the Diddy stuff. He's really, really funny and just able to cobble together like really thoughtful while also funny set pieces talking about a lot of these modern events from pop culture to government. And I think what's really impressive is that when he's not being hilarious, he's at least making it very interesting in his descriptions of the situation. And he's really good at painting a picture. He's really good at like making a joke out of bringing up a rapper name and then saying to the audience, that's a rapper, you know, just so you guys know. And so I feel like he also is talking about things in a way to where like you could watch this with your parents and they would come out of it maybe understanding the Drake-Kendrick beef, which I think is a skill in of itself. And that about brings us to a close. There's tons of other stuff in this document I skipped over because they didn't feel super significant enough to talk about. You know, like one month I was getting into playing Mario Wonder. There was another month where I got to stand outside of a local music festival and listen to Matt and Kim. I got to listen to Chili Peppers, my favorite band, you know, play for free, which is so freaking cool. And I have tons of memories in here of things I got to do with my friends. And I gotta say, journaling your month to month like this, like every month, just trying to remember your best fun memories of things you did with friends that month, or like the things that you were really obsessed with. I really enjoy it. I think making these videos at the end of every year is cool, and sharing this stuff with people. So ideally you guys maybe will wind up enjoying some of the shit that I'm into, and maybe it'll enrich other people besides just myself. But also on a personal level, this really just helps me recall the year that I've lived, from all the things that I was into, where I was at emotionally, what I was doing with friends. And so if anybody decides to, you know, journal their own hyperfixations or do a monthly recap, I highly recommend it. And all I can say is thank you everybody for watching. Thank you guys for supporting Tall Skeleton. And going into the new year, I really want to be more of a filmmaker this year. I really want to make more comedy sketches, short films. Who knows, maybe I'll even work on making a DIY feature film the way that Joel does. But all I know is that I really want to make movies, and I really want to be a storyteller. And as much as I love doing video essays and podcasts and stuff that are a little bit more hobbyist for me, I'm thinking this year I definitely want to shift the momentum a little bit more towards the filmmaking, because a lot of you guys, when I put out comedy sketches or films, you guys take a chance on it and let me know in the comments that, you know, you've enjoyed it, and it really means the world to me, and that's ultimately what I want to do with my life. And so I think that if I can start to kind of start to get the channel associated more with filmmaking, more with storytelling, even if it's just making dumb 2-minute comedy sketches with my friends, that would make me really happy. So that's like my big creative goal of this year. Recently, I put out one final comedy sketch for the year on the channel, New Year's Eve sketch with my friend Sedona. You guys can check it out as my most recent upload if you haven't seen it. And I hope this video wasn't too long. I hope me talking really fast over airplanes wasn't too annoying. But yeah, Happy New Year, everybody, and have a great one.